Back in the music bag again, the not hater, giving you guys tips and information about the music game, or basically what I call story time for these artists out here, trying to make their way. Um, Today we're gonna be talking about music then versus music now, and how it's changed over time, going from more of a CD format back when I was coming up to more of a digital format now, with everything being on your phone and such. So, music has changed over the years from album sales to streams, New Music Tuesday to New Music Friday, and the overall landscape of music has changed for everyone involved, from artists to record labels. It has gone from big record companies giving out huge advances to artists and recouping their money back after the album was released, Music 101, to now artists putting up their own money and using the label just for distribution and marketing for the most part. Big change. When I was growing up and got involved in music, most people cared about the first week sales. Let's start there. Your first week sales was important. If you went gold or platinum out the gate, they let you know. The album came out on Tuesday, so if your album came out on December 21st, let's say, by December 31st, or no, December 28th, I'm sorry, a week later, you had your first week sales. And that's basically how you got, they determined your push for your album, whether you're going to have 2 singles or 3 singles, whether you're going to get another video. How all those things were determined was based off of what your album sold the first week. For example, I learned that when I was watching Making the Band that, you know, the band didn't, they didn't live up to Diddy's expectations with their first week sales, and that's ultimately what got them, disbanded, for lack of better phrase. But now, nowadays, everything is based off streams on these different platforms, Apple Music and Tidal, and etc. Whatever you might use to stream music. And since I've been paying attention, many artists have been complaining at the fact that you know they may have like a million something streams of the album, but the check is pretty low. So word to you younger artists out there, while putting your albums out and everything is now much easier, the money that you get and the cut that you get is a lot smaller. Okay, so pay attention to that. And the reason why that's happened is because, again, in my era, and I like to say that in my era, the 90s and the early 2000s, we carried around CD players. Nowadays, everybody has a phone and they got mounds and mounds of music on their phones. Um, you know, and that's pretty much what happened, right? The switch from, you know, physical CDs to digital downloads affected everything. It affected record stores, it affected record labels. Um, you went from standing in line. I'll never forget, people was, cutting school to go get the first I want to say like Wu-Tang album, Wu-Tang Forever. People cut school to get the Blueprint from Jay-Z. Um, we was cutting school, not me per se, but that age group was cutting school to get CDs, and now you don't have to do that. You could download the album at 12 a.m. on your phone and be rocking out to it by the time you wake up to get ready for school or work. It just makes it much easier, right? It's more accessible, but it killed the whole rollout format that people used to use in the music business, because they'd roll out a video, then they radio single and the interview and all, and it killed all of that. um Making everything digital made it much simpler, much easier to get. um but ultimately, in the end, it killed the music business to a certain extent. um and yes, it's plenty of negatives with the switch, but I will say this: like, for the independent artists, it has been a major advantage. Um, using platforms like YouTube and um, Spotify and Tidal and Apple Music, DistroKid, etc., just to name a few. Your music goes from being unheard to heard by the masses, in a matter of a couple weeks or so, what it takes to upload to those TuneCore and all those, like a couple weeks. So it go, you become unknown. Somebody, the right person, stream it or stream it enough. Now you're a, household name. Before that, it was next to impossible for artists to get seen or get heard. You had to sell CDs out the trunk of your car and add a show that you may have booked and hope that it would land in the hands of the right people. You know what I mean? And that was probably the hardest thing to do, was get your music heard by the right person at the right time. And nowadays, you can put on a show, you can go live on YouTube, and if you got enough following, it'll land in the right people's hands, because everybody's looking for the next artist that they can make popular and make famous. So why not? Shows and touring have become the most important way to get your name out there, along with social media. You make yourself available to your followers, basically grow your fan base from it, and that plus the independent distribution, artists got more control than they did in the past. Artists had to wait for the label to do everything back then, and now basically you can do everything you need to do from your laptop. You don't really need the big companies anymore to be a sufficient artist, as long as you have a fan base that's growing, and you continue to put out good music. You have absolutely the world at your disposal, and if you can capitalize off it and make money, then you're good money, in my opinion. The music game is definitely changed. It's still risky. It's a risky business, but if it's done correctly and you hit, have the right hit on your hands, you could become famous on some level and achieve the stardom that you've been looking for. And that's just like a message to all the artists out there. I do see that, a lot of them are on their journeys, and I wish you much success. I hope you are in it for the long haul. Don't just be in it to make a quick, what you perceive as a quick buck, or become famous and then just get out. Like, be there, make good music, make something worth somebody wanting to pay attention to it, in my opinion. Because I'm from that era, right? I'm from the era where your hook had to be, hot, the beat had to be hot, your verses had to be saying something in your 16s if you were rapping, right? Singers had to have the voice. There wasn't any use for like auto-tune or anything like that. Like, technology helped these artists out these days too. They hide it, some people hide behind it, but it's all advancements, right? Advancements come along to make things easier. So by going digital with all these platforms, it made life easier for the artists in some respects, right? The independent artists, I should say. The major artists, they finding out, like the independents, like they got to do work and put work in. But at the same time, like I said, social media, build your presence up, you get out there, you do your thing, and then boom, you could blow up and be successful. I think Soulja Boy did it. There's a couple more artists that were, huge presence on social media led to them getting the deals that they got. And then they took over, once they got on, and, they was hotter than fish grease. And, you could do the same thing in my, artists out there now. Take what they did and go further. Like, take the YouTube route, build your followers up there, build your followers up on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, what have you. Put your song out there, let people use it, get a bunch of repostings, and then, like I said, these labels are still paying attention. They're still, they just scouting social media instead of, I guess you could say open mics or what have you. They headed to social media to find the next big thing. So if you're not using it, I suggest you use it to your advantage. And put out only your best music. That's the other part. Like, make sure the songs that you put out, man, people, like I said, with your TikToks and everything else, like, make sure they jam into it, because that's gonna play a part too in you catching the eye of the label. If they just using it and they even if they using it to tell a sad story or whatever, what the case may have you, like just make sure it's it, as they say, like it's lit. um and you'll have people at your doorstep for sure if you got a hot song, and that presence, they're coming. With that being said, I'm not gonna hold you. I'm not gonna repeat it anymore. I told you basically what to do. I told you how the music is changed and it's different, and I hope that you guys follow it and heed to it. Peace and love. I'm out.
Bye.